Hello dear students, welcome to the online education of class 7 science. Dear students, in the previous class I had started the lesson respiration in organisms. In the beginning class we have studied about the respiration process and function of the cell. So later on we discussed about the concept of cellular respiration. So cellular respiration takes place by two methods, that is one is aerobic respiration, another one is anaerobic respiration. So in the previous class we have already studied that in the cell, if the food is broken down into simpler molecules, okay, and converted into carbon dioxide and water using the oxygen. So when the breakdown of glucose or a food takes place with the use of oxygen, then it is called aerobic respiration. So we have also studied the equation for that. And in the next concept we have studied about anaerobic respiration. So here what happens, the organisms such as yeast, okay, so they can survive even without consumption of oxygen. Okay, in the absence of air they can survive. So they get energy through the anaerobic respiration. So what is that anaerobic respiration? So the breakdown of food takes place in the absence of oxygen and to form alcohol and carbon dioxide. So this process is known as anaerobic respiration. So the such organisms are called anaerobes. So the equation is as follows. So glucose breaks down without using the oxygen. So the formation of byproducts is alcohol plus carbon dioxide and energy is released. So in both the cases, aerobic and anaerobic respiration, both the respiration energy is released. But in case of anaerobic respiration, alcohol is produced. Okay, so carbon dioxide is produced in both the cases, but alcohol is produced in case of anaerobic respiration. So now let's move on to the next concept. So about the some microorganisms, about how do they undergo anaerobic respiration. So we have heard about the yeast, just now I mentioned. So yeast are the some kind of microorganisms. I mean, they are single celled organisms. Okay, so they respire anaerobically. During this period they yield alcohol. So the organisms such as yeast, they are single celled organisms, so they respire without the use of oxygen, and they are going to produce alcohol as a byproduct. So therefore these yeasts have been used to make wine and beer. Okay, so in the wine industries more number yeast organisms are used. Okay, yeast cells are used in wine industry to make alcohol. Even in the production of the beer, so yeast are used. Okay, then let's move on to the next concept, that is muscle cells. See dear students, all the time we do not undergo the our body cells do not undergo the aerobic respiration. There are some situations wherein our body cells need to undergo anaerobic respiration for a short period of time. So in which case, let us see that. Okay, so our muscle cells can also respire anaerobically. How do they, when during which time our muscle cells can undergo anaerobic respiration? See, but it undergo anaerobic respiration only for a short period of time. So when it is, let's see. So when there is a temporary deficiency of oxygen during a heavy exercise, so you might have noticed, okay, so whenever you do the heavy exercise or heavy running, okay, see suppose if you are preparing for any sports competition, running competition or any gym activity if you are doing, so at that time heavy body exercise, what happens at that time? So at that time there is a temporarily deficiency of oxygen takes place. So fast running if you are doing, in such case, which are the cases, there is a heavy exercise you do, for example running, fast running if you are doing, look at the figure 11.1. so some muscles may respire anaerobically in that case. Okay, during the running, then cycling for a longer distances, then walking for many hours. Suppose you are walking for many hours, 2 hours, 3 hours, like that. Okay, so for example the people who are going for Pandrapur, okay, who are going for Guddapur, okay, so they walk for many hours, so they feel what, deficiency of oxygen. Okay, so running for many hours, working for many hours, running for long time, okay, cycling, heavy weight lifting. Okay, so in all these cases, this is all together we call it as heavy exercise. At this time what happens, the demand for oxygen is very high. Okay, demand for energy is very high at this time when you're doing these such heavy exercises. So more amount of energy is needed. Am I right or not? So if you do not have a, see, when you're normal walk, if you're doing normal walk, if you're doing normal work, so there is less amount of energy is consumed by your body cells. Okay, so when you're doing such heavy work, so at that time the demand for energy is very high. Okay, so but the demand for energy is high, but supply of oxygen to produce the energy is limited. So whatever the supply of oxygen to produce the energy is limited. How much energy oxygen is being supplied every day at the every time, so same amount of energy is being supplied in order to produce the energy, which is limited only. Supply of oxygen to produce the energy is limited only. Normal, it is quite normal, it will takes place. So but the demand for the energy is more, but supply of oxygen for production of energy is limited or less. So in this case, the anaerobic respiration takes place in the muscle cells to fulfill the demand of energy. So in this case, there is more amount of energy is needed at suddenly, but the supply of oxygen to produce the energy in the cells is limited number of energy is supplied. So in such case, what happens here, the anaerobic respiration takes place in the muscle cells. Okay, to fulfill the requirement of energy, demand of the energy. At that time the energy is needed. So how do you balance that? So immediately what happens in the muscle cells, the anaerobic respiration takes place. Without use of oxygen, anaerobic respiration takes place and energy is supplied to that. So what is the equation for that? See, glucose in the muscles, it is present in the muscles, glucose, stored glucose. Okay, it is in the absence of oxygen, its process takes place. So it releases lactic acid plus energy. Okay, in this manner, so the process of breakdown of the process of anaerobic respiration takes place in the human body. So even you might have wondered why you get a muscle cramps after heavy exercise. See, sometimes you might have observed when you do a very heavy exercise, your muscles cramp. We say muscle catch, we say no. So we feel that muscle cramps. So after a heavy exercise, see what happens here, because the cramp occurs when muscle cells respire anaerobically. When the energy required to do the heavy exercise is correct or accurate as per the demand when it is being supplied, so there is no cramp of muscles takes place. When the requirement for energy is more and exercise is more, but supply is limited, at that time you respire anaerobically in the muscle cells. So when the muscle cells respire anaerobically, at that time the cramps also occurs in the muscles. Okay, so the partial breakdown of the glucose produces lactic acid. At that time the glucose is going to be break down partially and form a lactic acid and release energy. So if the accumulation of this lactic acid causes, so the more and more amount of accumulation of lactic acid, that causes the muscles to cramp. Okay, so we get relief from these muscle cramps after a hot water bath or a massage. So in order to get relief from this muscle catch no or cramps, you have to take either a hot water bath or a massage with oil. Okay, so now you can guess why it is so. Why we need to take the hot water means, hot water bath or a massage improves the circulation of blood. See, when you take hot water bath or a massage therapy, if you get it, what happens here, it automatically improves the speed, circulation of the blood in the body. So as a result, the supply of oxygen is also increases to the muscle cells, increases. So the increase in the supply of oxygen results in the production complete breakdown of the glucose, lactic acid into carbon dioxide and water. So hence the muscle cramps get relieved. Okay, so dear students, I hope you have understood this concept that which I have explained today. So try to make the point of it and write down the equations. Okay, thank you and have a nice day.